Hey everyone, welcome to a special Sunday evening edition of KenCast. It's so great to have you here. If you're watching live, welcome. Please join us in the chat. We'd love to hear you say hello and all of your thoughts. If you're watching on the replay, say hi in the comments. Thank you for joining us. If you're a longtime viewer, welcome back. If you're a first time viewer, it's great to have you. And be sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any KenCast going forward. We always look for the best guests, the best discussion, and we think we have one for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about Ralph Macchio's book, Waxing On. And even more than that, we're going to be talking with Peter from Cobra Kai Kompanion about his experience meeting both Ralph Macchio and Yuji Okumoto in Seattle, and he's going to tell us the entire story and what that was like. And if you have questions or comments, or if you've met them before and want to share your stories, please do so in the live chat. It is great to have you. Now, in order to get this discussion going, I am very honored to bring in our special guest for today. You've heard him all over Cobra Kai media. You've seen him on the red carpet. He has interviewed probably more people in the Cobra Kai universe than I've met in the past 5 years total. It is the one and the only Peter. Peter, great to see you from Cobra Kai Kompanion.
Hey Ken, thanks for having me. It's just the like Drew often says when he's on here as a guest, it's just it's quite an introduction. I I hope I don't underwhelm like the newer viewers.
Oh, never so, never. And for all of you in the chat right now, we're going to say hi in just a second, but you often see Peter in the chat. He's conversing with everyone in the chat, and it's so great to have his participation in the KenCast chat. But it's even more amazing when we have him live in person and we can talk to him and pick his brain and get all of his knowledge and experiences like we're going to today. So Peter, do you have any thoughts? It's Sunday evening. Have you had a good week? Any news with you?
Well, on the personal level, for those that know what I do, I'm a mail carrier, and I actually just started at a brand new station yesterday, the second one in over 10 years. So it was kind of exciting. It was like the new kid in school, like Daniel LaRusso, moving from one side of the country to the other. I'm in a brand new area. I'm not familiar with the streets, so I felt like a brand new guy. But a lot of very friendly faces. I got to put up all my Cobra Kai pictures up on my workspace, so for anyone that follows me on Instagram, you probably already saw that.
Yes, indeed. Well, and I know we all wish you the best of luck in your new adventures. That sounds great. It sounds like it could be a really good fun change. And thank you for doing such an important role for all of us, helping us communicate. And
oh yeah.
Thank you for communicating live with everyone right now in this live stream. And I'd like to welcome everyone who's watching. Great to see you, Marianella. Just highlighting everyone in the chat. Big T. Oh my gosh, it's always great to have the Big T here. Always honored. Thank you for joining us. Big T says, good evening, my friend. Look forward to your latest installment of KenCast. Thank you, sir. And we are working on your legal problems right now. Have no fear. Terry Johnson, great to see you, Terry. Hello, Ken. So glad to be here. Reluctify screams, great to see you. Aurelio Cortez, hi, Sensei Cole. Well, Aurelio, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being a channel member and helping to support the channel. Really appreciate that. Gene, hi, Gene. How's it going? Chris, another channel member. Thanks for joining us, Chris. And I'm glad you're here. We're both glad you're here as well. Persephone, it's great to see you. Persephone is a viewer from Facebook, so thank you for watching on Facebook. And to everyone in Twitter, we say hello as well. Twitter, we can't have the live comments, but thank you for watching on Twitter if you're watching as well. Bryce Productions, it's always a pleasure. And yeah, let us know where you're from. Terry's from Florida, but it's chilly down here, folks, in Southern Florida too. It's interesting. Yeah, the weather, we're at that time of year where the weather's kind of in flux. Josh, great to see you, Josh. He says, hi, Ken. Hi, Peter.
Ken, let me ask you something. What's cold for you? What's the weather like in California?
You want to know something? It's not too bad. It's at that time of year where it's, warm, maybe like 70-ish during the day, but at night it gets down to like 42. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's kind of that time of year. But I grew up around Boston, and I went to school for a little bit in Vermont. So I'm used to pretty hardcore winters. Then I lived in Oklahoma for a while, and now I'm in Southern California. So I don't even know what's normal for me anymore.
Yeah,
What's chilly for you? Because you're up in the Pacific Northwest.
I am. All week it's been about mid 30s, and but it's been
Wow.
a clear sky, and so it feels a little warm, so it doesn't really quite feel like 36, 37. It feels maybe low 40s. But I've been out in the Midwest myself. I spent a year in Kansas on active duty, and I've seen how high the snow can get, even over there. Yeah, single
Yes.
digit temperature and stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, so you're no stranger to extreme winters. You're having much more of an extreme November than I am here. Do you guys get snow a lot?
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
We
Yep.
can, and we've had some snowstorms in the last decade. We had two really bad storms, or three, I think three.
Gosh. Well, best wishes. Hopefully, this is a mild winter for you guys, and you don't have to worry about that at all.
Hopefully.
Hopefully so. Gene, it's great to see you, Gene. Hash Brown Livecaster. Thank you, Gene. Clifton, great to see you. Tracy, talking straight with Nate with one of the best underground theories, I think, for the future of Cobra Kai, about where that painting that Mike Barnes stole from Terry Silver, where it came from, and where it's going to go back, and what that might mean for the series. So, talking straight with Nate, thank you. Marco, great to see you. SP, uh, is it Clinkin? Great to see you. David, hi, Peter, and
It,
Lisa.
the
Wow.
that could have been like Specialist Lincoln. SPC could have been a rank, Army rank.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes,
Mhm.
that makes a lot of sense. Um, and the All Valley. Hi, how's it going? Well,
Hey, Jim
okay,
Marco.
Peter. It's just amazing to be joined by so many people watching. Thanks for everyone for joining today. Um, we have a very special presentation. We're going to have a great story from you today. And can you give just maybe one or two lines about your experience, just what you got from this experience of being in Seattle and meeting with Ralph and Yuji?
Couple lines. Well, I mean, I know, Ralph Macchio was on a book tour, and going to this book tour up in Seattle was an opportunity to kind of meet up with some companions. One of my moderators, and also a longtime listener of mine, and also um, just the experience alone was really humbling, and I got to kind of have a moment with Ralph Macchio at in an intimate setting where he wasn't around like a crowd of people, and he can just be himself with me just for a few moments. So that was really nice.
Oh, that's fantastic. And guys, that's just a tease. We're gonna dive deep into this entire experience. And again, let us know too if you've had your own great experiences. Well, Peter, to start us off, I think as we always do, we'll start with a bit of news.
KenCast News.
That's right. Well, at least in the Cobra, at least in the Cobra Kai world, not quite yet. We don't have tons of news yet, but the big news, and we really haven't talked about yet on KenCast, is Ralph Macchio has his new book out. We'll talk more about this, but this is Waxing On the Karate Kid and Me. And guys, if you have not read this book or listened to this book yet, it is a high recommend. High recommend. It's just and Peter, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I'm actually listening to it right now. I'm like 2/3 of the way through it. I just love the behind the scenes of movies and film production. I love these personal accounts. And of course, I love The Karate Kid. And it just, I don't know, reading it just gives me such a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's just wonderful, all this information. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this book?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The stories that Ralph shares, many of which I feel we've heard like a variation of it. This is Ralph sitting down and putting his thoughts and kind of filling in the gaps of the things that we hadn't heard before. Couple of other things about this, the release of his book. Number one, he celebrated a birthday shortly after the release of the book, and also became an instant New York Times bestseller for Waxing On too. Some congrats to him. Yeah, I have heard some of the stories, but again, he kind of like expands on that. Specifically William Zabka and Elizabeth Shue, who he calls Lisa, and William Billy, and says that's the way he met them. He was introduced to them with those names, and so he kind of confirms and validates. Like, yeah, Lisa. We've kind of heard that, but why Lisa? I didn't know he was introduced to her as Lisa. Yeah, I just thought that maybe they became close enough, and that was like a nickname for people that were close to her. But Billy, just kind of like his relationship with Billy over the years. There's a point where Ralph kind of mentions, and I'm trying to be a little vague for those that haven't gotten to that part or haven't started the book yet. But he talks about how at some point he did lose touch with Billy, and it was really interesting to hear what the event was that kind of brought him and Billy back together again. So and there was a point later on in the book, Ken, if you're saying you got through 2/3, you may not have gotten to it yet, but there's a story that Ralph shares that was very honest, and I feel, well, there's a version of it that I was like, well, okay, I kind of know this, but as he's kind of revealing details of it, I was like, oh wow, I did not know that. And that is something I shared with him in person. I was like, at this point in the book, I really appreciated your honesty, and I think people can kind of learn from the decisions you made or may not or didn't make surrounding that.
Fascinating. Question: did it have to do with his career, or was it something in his personal life?
It was, let's see, it was more of a it was kind of related. I mean, it's a decision that he made based on, I don't want to call it an assumption. I mean, I don't think it's like a spoiler if I say kind of what it was. I feel like people may have known, but they didn't know the details as to like why he made a decision.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if I've gotten to that point or not.
Yeah.
But I basically got to the point where by the way, there's a chapter where he basically just talks about like the 80s and sort of like the Karate Kid in the context of the 80s, which is just incredible. He talks about 80s movies and why they're special, and as like a major player in the 80s movies pantheon, it's really refreshing to hear all that. And then, he talks later about, I think I just finished a chapter on like fan theories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's obviously that has to do with what we do, so it's kind of fun.
If I could kind of piggyback on the whole talk about the 80s, he talks about the rise of his career in the 80s. And, once he gets to the 90s, is a completely different story. But he also shares why perhaps his life was so different in the 80s versus the other kid actors that you heard about in the 80s as well. So that was also very fascinating. I had no idea, but I did kind of wonder, like, what his trajectory, not even trajectory, but just kind of his life in the 80s was very, very different from many of those that were in the tabloids for, one reason or another.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really interesting as well. And I was surprised, you obviously are a huge fan of the Back to the Future franchise. His story about Back to the Future, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So guys, if you're a fan of like 80s movies and Back to the Future stuff, like highly recommend reading this book. Highly recommend.
Or listening.
Yeah, or listening. That's even better. It's he's reading it himself.
Yeah.
And as Peter said, like it's a New York Times bestseller. So absolutely great. As we get kind of like into the 80s nostalgic view, I'll just bring up too. I did a video on Star Wars versus Cobra Kai, kind of the things that Cobra Kai did so well as a legacy sequel series, and the 7 lessons it could teach Disney's Star Wars. And I've loved the response to it. Everyone's had so many great comments. And I wanted to highlight a comment I got today from Joseph Laban. And he actually brings up a case. I haven't seen the series yet, the new series, The Santa Clauses with Tim Allen. And he goes point by point through all these 7 lessons that I kind of identify from Cobra Kai, and how this series is actually following what Cobra Kai did so well as a legacy sequel series. So thank you, Joseph, for the amazing comment. And I don't know, Peter. I might have to check out the Santa Clauses. Are you a fan? Did you ever watch those movies?
Actually, yeah, I am a fan of the first two movies, and I've seen all three. I have not seen the Santa Clauses and was very on the fence, but I do hear good things about it. So I may have to put some of my own personal biases aside and just try to enjoy myself and have a good time. Again, but I like that Santa Claus movie.
Yeah. So now you like the first two. The third one, that one maybe didn't measure up as much.
I liked it for what it was worth. The Jack Frost character, that was the third one, right?
I think so. I only saw the first two.
Okay, yeah. Martin Short, love him.
Mhm.
Wasn't a big fan of the Jack Frost character. I think that's what it was, but it was nice to see Charlie all grown up. I'm forget it was Bernard, and some of these like other familiar faces from the previous movies. So it was always kind of nice to see like a big gap and have a sequel, do well enough. Not we're like, oh, why did they make this one? I never felt that way
Right.
about that third movie. It was fine, but I was also fine with just the first two. I really like the first two quite a bit.
Fascinating. Yeah, we'll definitely have to check those out. We have some questions for you in the comments. Bryce Production asks, question for Peter. Do you know anyone in Jonathan Albertson's family, like a brother or sister, that could be contacted to contact Jonathan to come back as Snake? Yeah, Peter, this is a great question. I know a lot of people are like, William Christopher Ford has said well, Jonathan Albertson's out there somewhere. We don't quite know where. But I don't know. Do you have any answers, Peter?
I do not know of any other family member, though I have looked for Jonathan Elvis myself. Um, Not successful. Wasn't able to find anybody. But the whole idea of like contacting through family members, I actually tried doing that with Danny Kamakona. Since he passed away so long ago and he was older in age, it was really difficult to find family members. So I was looking for like grandkids and nephews and stuff, trying to find somebody that's connected to that family and see if I can, try to get some stories about Danny himself. So
Oh, wow.
some of the characters I have done some extensive research in trying to find family members, and others, just as simple searches and that was it. So just kind of depended.
Interesting. Very fascinating. I know I feel the same as Chris here. Snake coming back would be awesome. Totally agree. Cherry Johnson says that she's read most of Ralph's book. It's amazing and sweet. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Sweet. It's a very nice, very sweet book.
I would
Um,
agree.
let's see. And I don't know. Lupo asks, does he talk about the other William Zabka movies playing a bully? Not that I've seen so far.
I don't believe he does, because that's just about Billy, I
Mhm.
feel Ralph does kind of stay kind of more about him, and when he's referring to other actors, it's more of their relationship.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Um, And before we get into your story, Chris has one last request. Do you guys predict that Terry Silver will bond out of jail within the first few episodes because of all his resources? Of course, I have feelings about this. But Peter, do you have predictions?
I don't want to say predictions, because I would like to have things to kind of base my predictions off of. As of
Right,
right now, they haven't even started writing, from what we understand from
right,
the few information that's out there. Like, hey, we won't start writing until we're done with Obliterated, right? And
right,
so I don't know what they're going to do with the beginning of season 6, if and when it gets officially announced, right? Um,
right.
I know that the formula is it picks up pretty much right after the previous season. I kind of thought this would happen with season 5, and it didn't. Maybe it happens in season 6. Maybe it doesn't happen at all. But could we see a time jump? Could we see the kind of early on, Terry Silver is getting out of jail, and
Right.
maybe we get some flashbacks to his time there in the first 2 episodes, or the first episode, however much time they want to spend on it, because we don't know what season 6 is going to be about. Is it
Right.
really going to be about the Sekai Takai the whole season? So a rehash of season 4, you know? So
Right.
that's just kind of where I'm at. I don't know if they're planning to bring back any other legacy characters. Hello, Julie
Right.
Pierce. You know,
Right.
so there's it can go so many ways, Ken. So it's really hard to
Mhm.
predict. But I like in this case, maybe the word speculation,
Yeah.
might be a little bit more appropriate. I don't know. So what are your thoughts? Are they deep thoughts?
Well, it's kind of a weird position we're in, right? Because we could come up with so many different scenarios, as to what could happen, and obviously you're right. They haven't even started writing yet. Um, the one thing I'll say is that I think you're right. The way that season 5 ended, it could really go in so many different directions. I mean, Terry Silver could go to jail, he could do that. We've explored on this channel about how Terry Silver maybe has been wrongfully accused and other people might suffer criminal charges for what they've done on video, that Terry Silver may have carefully laid out. Um, and yeah, you can't get around the fact that Terry's a billionaire and he's got a lot of resources and probably a lot of connections. So I don't know what that might mean, but to me, it means that there is a likelihood that perhaps he won't spend too much time in jail. And you bring up a good point. Is season 6 going to really start right at the end of season 5, or will there be some kind of time jump where you might get flashback explanations for things? So, yeah, you're right. It's ended at a good point because it's not as strong like a cliffhanger where season 6 needs to start like right at the end of season 5. So, yeah, we kind of don't know.
We don't. And, like season 5, some of those beats throughout the season, we probably could have speculated or predicted, but did anybody figure out how like any of that was going to happen the way it did?
Right.
I have some friends I can call up. Mike Barnes shows up in episode 3 and we don't see him again until 10.
Right.
The trailers come out and we see the Fist and Sensei Kim. We don't get her until episode 6. So anything could happen. What they do well is they set things up for future episodes, for future seasons.
Right.
The things that you had just mentioned, surveillance and these type of things, we know that stuff exists. They may not even show us those things because they've already shown it to us before. It could be a shorthand, and it may be nothing that it may be something that they don't need to show us again, but like in some dialogue or whatever, like, well, we can piece the story together ourselves. Like, oh, okay, well, I remember in season 4 they showed us the surveillance, in the old Cobra Kai dojo. They bring it up in season 5. Maybe somehow it comes back up. We don't know. We just know that at some point in the footage it cuts off. Like, was that completely deleted? Was it a kind of a doctored footage? And then there's like a master with the act. We don't know. And the other thing is, like, if it does start back up right where we left off, who's to say that maybe Terry Silver gets put into that car and immediately is handed the keys from the driver?
Right.
We,
Right.
we don't know. It could be snake driving.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Wouldn't that be funny?
It
Oh,
could be
that'd be great.
Dennis sitting there with the shoji screen, like it's like
Mhm.
that's the possibility. The possibility, or yeah, it could be the two of them driving that patrol car.
Yeah, that really wonderful points. Of course, we've got fans in here. Toguchi, the chosen one. Terry Silver won't be in prison for long. No way. Josh says, I think Terry will be minutes in prison. Tracy, this seems inevitable. Maybe I can't wait to see the face to face with Silver and Kreese. You got a feeling that they're gonna come face to face again. Yep. John says Terry will be back. Really, yeah, guys. I think those are very reasonable. Now we're going to be getting into this discussion with Peter. Rich has one last question. As someone interested in getting the book, was there certain expectations that you had that were not met, or you wish Ralph touched more upon? That's an interesting question.
It is. I feel there was something that I felt I could have used a little bit more of, but I don't remember what it was. I think, like I can always use more Pat, but
Mhm.
Ralph does talk about Pat in chapters 2 and 11. So I don't felt like I felt like cheated or ripped off or short on anything. Like it was a fantastic book. I listened to it 2 times before the event, which we'll discuss here about it soon, and then I listened to it halfway up there and the other half on the way back. And then now I'm kind of restarting the audiobook again. And with my 10-year-old who I drop off at school, he reads along with the physical book as I'm playing the audio. So Ralph is reading as he's
Oh, wow.
listening along. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's the
great.
thing that we're doing. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and he does such a great job. Obviously, he's an amazing actor, but just reading it, it adds a whole new level to it when you hear him speak the words. It's really great. I will say here's what I'd say. Different people in the industry who write these books kind of have different approaches, and I think some people maybe they'd come into it and give sort of a chronicle of their experiences working on the Karate Kid and the movies, and kind of give a hard chronology, like this happened and this happened and this happened. This book, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, it's really more about kind of the high points, the things that made an impression on him. It's much more of a personal story. So you'll get moments and anecdotes, but he's not trying to give sort of a behind the scenes chronicle of like the making of the Karate Kid movies. So like for me, I'm of course very interested, in the making of the movies. And so far he hasn't really talked about the making of like the sequels at all, which to me is very interesting, because in the past, it seems like the best resources to get information about the sequels might be listening to Cobra Kai Kompanion. There hasn't been a lot of like officially released material, about the sequels. I don't know. Does later on in the book, does he get more into sort of the sequels, Karate Kid Part 2 and 3?
He kind of mentions them, but he doesn't really get into the making of. That's actually I think that now that I think about it, I feel that there wasn't a lot of like stories or anything like that with Yuji Okumoto. He does mention them, and I believe at one point there's actually a picture in the book of Yuji visiting the set of the Karate Kid Part 3. So I think that's where like I kind of want to know a little bit more about that. This picture that has never been released is used in his book. And Yuji came to visit Part 3 when he was the villain in Part 2. So he was there to visit Ralph, I'm assuming. Was he there to visit Pat Morita? So I feel there's some stories there that we can hear. But again, this is more about Ralph and his memories. And you are correct, Ken. It does not play like a linear story, chronologically.
Yes.
He's not going through his career, decade by decade. From what I understand, listening to some of his podcast appearances, he mentioned how he kind of sat down and he decided that he was going to do 12 chapters because he likes even numbers, and 24, just seems kind of a lot. And so he went with 12 chapters, and then he sat down and just started writing the titles of them. And then he went in and started writing these stories. And so it's kind of funny because, he may touch on, William Zackler at one point, then he goes more to come later in another chapter, so he'll kind of let you know. So I think more the focus was kind of like his career with the Karate Kid. So there's a lot of Jerry Weintraub, there's John G. Avildsen, and then his relationships with Pat Morita, Lisa, and Billy. That's pretty much it. You hear about Yuji and Tamlin being mentioned as legacy characters in Cobra Kai, and that's kind of the extent of it. Just kind of just mentioning them, and just kind of how nice it was to see them again. There is one thing that Ralph mentioned in the book that Yuji says when talking about the Cobra Kai, and that almost made me tear up, well up. I was just, starting to get a little emotional. So I know, I don't want to say the wrong name. So whoever it was that said that the book was sweet, 100% agree. But my one word description to Ralph was, I thought it was beautiful, because it just, like I feel there was at least 3 or 4 times that I just welled up, just because, just kind of imagining it, and listening to the audiobook, it really sounds like, or feels like, Ralph is telling you the story personally. And so it kind of puts you there, and kind of just picturing how things happen. And so, yeah, it's just his choice of words were very immaculate. And I don't read or listen to a lot of audiobooks, but this is one that, all biases aside, I thought it was really well put together. And one of my friends, if he's in the chat, Mikey G, he says that he's read a lot of memoirs and has said that a lot of them kind of sucks. And this one was really, really good. So
Right.
that's kind of the consensus. I haven't seen a tweet or any comments of like one bad review or comment about the book.
Right. Yeah, it's really phenomenal. Highly recommended. I've got a link in the description to Amazon if you want to, if you want to buy it. Of course, your local libraries will have it too. It's a New York Times bestseller. Highly recommended. Now, Peter, speaking of personal stories where Ralph Macchio is almost talking to you personally, I think we should dive into your personal story of going up to meet Ralph and Yuji. So, everyone, let's get into our discussion.
KenCast discussion.
Okay, so Peter, tell us how did this come about? Give us a story from the beginning. How did you get into a position where you got to meet Ralph Macchio and Yuji Okumoto?
Yeah, I think, I kind of been a content creator for quite a long time now, 8+ years. I've been covering Cobra Kai for 4.5. Sometimes you just have to make things happen for yourself. And when the book was announced, I'm like, great, I will pre-order the book and I'm going to read this book. And then when it was announced that Ralph Macchio was going to go on a book tour, I was kind of crossing my fingers. Hopefully that something was close enough. I live in Portland, Oregon, and it was announced that he would be showing up in Seattle. Great. Guess what? Get a special guest, Yuji Okumoto, even better. And so I was like, well, I have to go. I have to go to this. It just, it's a no-brainer. It's 3.5 hours drive, but I've visited Yuji twice before. Once just right before season 5 came out, and more on that later. But without buying a ticket to this event yet or anything, I immediately just tweeted out, it looks like I have a date with Yuji and Ralph on October 22nd, and so since I'm just driving, I didn't need to buy a plane ticket. I don't usually when I go see Yuji, I don't stay overnight. I usually just drive right back in the middle of the night, get home 1, 2 in the morning or whatever. And so I started kind of getting with some people. My buddy who goes to Seattle with me, the 2 times we went to see Yuji, I asked him, I was like, do you want to go to this book tour? He goes, yeah, buy me a ticket, I'll go. And so got us the 2 tickets. We didn't know it'd be like seatings, like assigned seatings or whatever. So I got 2 tickets, so that way he got his book. I would and the admission. And then I was starting to find out some other friends, some other lady friends from California were going to fly up because they want to meet Yuji as well. And that's kind of what happened from there. And it was a matter of getting that day off because let me see. Actually, I had the weekend off. However, with my job, I can get drafted to work. If they need somebody, they can bring me in, which they always do. I usually don't get my second day off. I get every Sunday off, but get brought in all those other days. And so a month out, I made sure that I contacted management and said, hey, I'm leaving. I will be out of town for something family related and important. I am unavailable to work this day. And they said, okay, so they wrote that down to make sure that they cannot bring me in. And when that day came, my buddy and I, we made plans to drive up there. I had reached out to Yuji a few days before, said, hey, we're coming up. This is around the time we're planning to be there. If you're available, we'd love to say hello. If not, we'll see you at the book tour. And he didn't reply immediately, but the day before, he's like, hey, I'm going to be pretty busy beforehand. Why don't you guys swing by afterwards, after the book tour? And we actually had already planned that because weeks prior, Kona Kitchen on their Facebook page had made an announcement that they were bringing back karaoke night. And on that evening, that would have been their second karaoke night. And so my friends and I, we had been talking, we should go karaoke and we should do Eye of the Tiger. And they say, you know what, give me some liquid courage, and sure, why not? And so we already had made plans to make a return after the book tour. And so we go up there, and once we got to Kona Kitchen, my lady friends, they were already there. My buddy and I, we showed up, and we just kind of started, we sat down and started talking, introduced them to my buddy who I came up with. And I had brought up this beer that's brewed here in Portland. This brewing company here, they have these novelty flavors and whatnot, and it's called Sweep the Leg. And
That's great.
The design. Oh, actually, I drank it on
Yes.
the
Okay.
KenCast.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, the sweep the leg, and you showed it. Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. So it has a cobra on the front, and
Yes.
the pattern in the background is a Miyagi-Do lotus, which is kind of like, okay, you're infusing both dojos here. But
Yeah.
I thought that I would bring Yuji one. It's like a rice lager. I just thought it'd be kind of cool for him to keep for his collection. Yes. And so I bring in this can of beer, and I'm sitting with my friends. I'm like, yeah, Yuji said he probably won't be able to make it. So maybe if his wife is around, I could just give it to her to give to him. And then sure enough, here she comes, like kind of walking by. She's got her mask on, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's her. And I kind of wave, and she waves back. And then I turn my back again, and I'm like, yeah, so maybe I just can give it to her, and she'll give it to Yuji. And then I guess as I say that, Yuji walks in the door. It's almost like it's like a sitcom, It's like, oh, it'd be funny if Yuji Okumoto was here, intro Yuji Okumoto, and everyone's like applauding, So it was like that comical. It's like literally we just mentioned him, and he happens to walk in the door. And if you listen to the Cobra Kai Kompanion podcast, because I don't remember if I put it on the YouTube channel, but at the very least, I put it on the audio podcast where you can hear us recap this weekend, including with my two lady friends that were there as well, because they had some observations. So in that podcast, and she mentions that he came in and was basically scanning the room for me because he immediately walks over to me and was like, Ralph wanted some food. So I'm here to grab some food and take it back to him. And then he handed me something. And Anne's like, what was it that he handed you? I go, 2 Chozen stickers. which I think I found out. I don't know if he told me right then or later on. He said that he has them printed out, so he can give to like kids and stuff. So I thought it was kind of funny that like, I know Peter's a fan of mine, so he likes Chozen, and here we go. So hopefully some kid out there, they're not getting a Chozen sticker, but they'll get to live vicariously through me.
Oh, that is hilarious. And thank you guys. It's so great to hear from you in the comments. I want to thank Talking Star Wars. Thank you for the super chat. He has a controversial theory. I think people have jumped on him saying like he thinks Kreese is going to Tahiti in number 6. So that's great. Thank you guys. So you were talking about all your friends. I'm gonna pull up a picture here. And so this is, I think, right after the story you just told. Is that right? Like this happened right afterwards when you guys are actually together. So there's Anne and Piilani, and is that your friend? That's your friend from Portland area?
He became my friend that night.
So
we ate at Kona Kitchen, and while we were also there, so I'll just call her my cousin just to make it easier. So I reached out to my cousin, who started following me on my Cobra Kai account, the Cobra Kai Kompanion account, after all my interviews from Paley Fest. And I was like, oh, she must be a fan of Cobra Kai. So once in a while she'll like a post, or she'll comment on a story that I shared, And so Piilani, her boyfriend, was unable to make the trip from California, and she had an extra ticket with a book. And so I reached out to my cousin. I said, hey, we have a ticket and a book if you want it. And she's like, yeah, sure. And so the day after, which would have been the day before the event, she's like, hey, so would it be awkward if my husband went? I go, well, awkward, yes, because I've never met him, but I will, I'll be glad to meet him, and we will take him for a few hours from you, And so they showed up after Yuji had left, so he didn't get a chance to meet Yuji. But oh my God, this is one of those guys that he is like if I can call it this, a casual super fan. So he doesn't get into the fandom stuff like we do, but he's like a super fan that's never been part of a fandom, didn't know it's a thing and that it exists. And so my cousin showed him like the interviews I've done, and he's just like, oh my god, this is amazing. And so it was really cool to kind of like share my story. And he has never met anybody from the cast, and so he was like, yeah, I wanted to come, Ralph Macchio, Yuji Okumoto. And so we hit it off immediately, and apparently he came from the same area as Pilani did in Hawaii. So like we all just became friends really that day. So after we ate, we snatched the husband from my cousin, and she took their kids to the mall. And so this is basically after we found a seat. We did we got there a little bit later than we wanted, and wanted to get there like 2 hours early to get in the beginning. But we were eating and
Right.
getting reacquainted and meeting new people. But we got there at a decent time. But we still kind of like walked up to the front, hoping there was going to be like scattered seating around. But like we were, I think we were all ready to split up if we needed to, just to get good
Right.
seats. But we couldn't. Everyone was kind of doing like they saw people looking for seats and kind of like scooted over or put a book down, that kind of thing. Is seats taken, from like Forrest
Right.
Gump kind of thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And so we kind of walked towards the back a little bit more, and found enough space for all of us that was there. Yeah. So but my
Oh,
buddy,
okay.
we actually don't see him. He's on the other side of me, looks like.
Oh, okay. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. Sorry, I went a little quick there.
Oh, sure.
Here's a moment. Now, they gave like a presentation, is that right? Like they actually talked to everyone. Was this after the presentation?
That is correct. This is
Okay.
afterwards.
So,
And
so let-
so yeah.
well, let me back up. Let me have you
Yep.
just before we get to that, tell us about this presentation and what they said and just the format of it.
Sure. It's almost like a panel at any Comic-Con for those that have been fortunate enough to attend one. It's very much a Q&A, and it's if I can say this, it was led by Yuji Okumoto because he's a special guest. And what I've kind of gathered, seeing pictures from the book tours, it sounds like if Ralph had a special guest, you got the panel. If it was just an appearance with no special guest, it was an actual book signing where you get in line, you get a photograph with Ralph, and I believe he personalizes your book. So for us, we showed up. There were stacks of books that were already autographed. You grab your copy, and then you go in, find a seat. Then you watch the Q&A, and then you get in line for a photograph with Ralph and his special guest. Although I don't think it was planned for Yuji to get in on it, and somebody may have asked, or maybe Ralph's like, Yuji, why don't you get in? Because Yuji wasn't in the first, I don't know how many, but then at some point Yuji got in, and then we were kind of towards the back. We were kind of sitting near the back. We're like, Yuji's in it now, yes, so that's cool. We like how many people are going to be able to say they have a picture with Ralph and Yuji?
Right. Right.
Just
I know.
just a few hundred that was there in Seattle. Apparently, we had about I believe they said around 400 or 500 people, and that was one of the smallest spots that he was appearing at. So that's kind of wild. I believe some stuff on the East Coast were upwards of like 1,000 or plus. So it just kind of depended on the venue, and we were at a it was a church at a college in in Washington. So.
Okay, great. So they talked, and there was like sort of like
Yes.
a panel Q&A. Anything interesting during the Q&A? Any revelations?
Revelations, well, it was just kind of more I kind of mentioned the phrasing earlier, like filling in the gaps, like Yuji would ask about this, that, the other thing, and then he'd bring that up. So Yuji did make some references to the book, and speaking with him afterwards, he said that I made sure I read it so that way I knew what to ask, kind of thing. At one point, actually I guess it was towards the end, apparently as prior to it, they actually had some people that showed up really early be able to write down some questions. And so towards the end of the panel, they kind of went through some of those questions. And one of them was kind of in regards to Ralph's marriage, with Phyllis, and how they've been together like 35 plus years. And, Yuji basically like congratulated him. And, he mentioned that, he'd been with his wife X amount of years, and he just kind of took a beat and it was just like 35 years. And he snapped into Chozen. It was like, how you do that? It got everyone just kind of just like laughed and chuckled. There was a little applause. And he's like, I had to do a little Chozen there. And like, I didn't think about it until like a little bit after. I was like, there was something familiar about that delivery. And I go, oh, it was like a sober version of the I have Silver's address.
Right.
It was very much that delivery, but like, oh, how you do that, So it was
Right.
really funny, and you can tell they were friends. The rapport between those two were really great, and uh, I know there were some Karate Kid 2 stories. I feel at least I've heard because my first interview with Yuji was about the Karate Kid 2, so there was talks about like being in Hawaii and filming with Danny and Pat, who are just
Mhm.
these vets in the acting industry. So just a little bit more on some of those stories, and obviously some stuff about Cobra Kai, which I feel a lot of the stuff we've heard if you like to like seek out these interviews when they're made. But I would imagine the audience was like a good mix. So people who like they wanted to go to, to be able to see Ralph Macchio live, or the Cobra Kai fans who wanted to see the two of them, things
Right.
like that. So I think it was a good mix of people.
That's great. And we've got the All Valley said, I went to the first show of the tour and mine was similar to Peter's. It was more like a panel and I got a signing of the book with Ralph's signature. And after that, I got my photo taken with Ralph. So yeah, very exciting. And this could still be going on. Is Ralph still touring? He might be adding new locations
So that's the funny thing. Both of that, what you just said, as I
Mhm.
understood it, the one that we did in Seattle, I believe he had like one or two uh, stops left of the actual tour, and then
Mhm.
recently, I believe he just made another announcement that he was going to be, I think somewhere in New York, maybe somewhere on the East Coast,
Mhm.
another appearance. So like a kind of an add-on. So he was pretty exhausted by the time he was in Seattle. So we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about that on our recap. Just like he just looked completely drained, and as you can imagine, like I didn't even count how many stops, but his book tour was only just a little over a week, and he was doing them almost every single day with like a day or two off of that entire span.
Wow.
So yeah. Uh, so I'm glad if he's got some time that's cool that he can add a few more locations just to get some more people a chance to kind of attend this.
Absolutely. Okay, now I'm going to put this photo back up. Look at isn't this amazing, guys? Look at
I,
it. This
I
is
think I, I
Peter.
think I think it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing. Peter talking with Ralph Macchio. Peter, tell us about what's going on here.
All right. So, leading up to the tour in Seattle, I mentioned that I had listened to the audiobook. When I bought it, I was like, I was very concerned that I wasn't going to be able to even crack a page before the event because of my long hours at work and with very little time off. And so when I discovered that it was on Audible, that it was narrated by Ralph Macchio himself, I was like, I got to get a listen in, and it's just so easy to listen, and you can actually speed up the audio just like a YouTube video and get through it just a little bit quicker. And so that's what I like about audiobooks, because usually they're read at a slow enough pace that if you speed it up, it just sounds like they're just kind of speaking normal. And
Right?
yeah, so after I got through it, or as I was going through it, there were certain parts that I felt, kind of like tweet worthy, just kind of put something out into the universe. Like, oh my God, there was a mention of this, and it's amazing. Or I'll use a picture of Ralph from like Cobra Kai. I'm like, this is how I'm feeling right now, kind of thing. And afterwards, I feel like he probably had seen some of those. And also around this time, I was getting a T-shirt made from kind of inspired from the Paley Fest red carpet, and
Mhm.
it has like a neon triangle, and Ralph and Billy are at the top, and I'm in the center with the microphone. And so that T-shirt design I had just gotten done, and I was able to get myself one. And I reached out to Julia Macchio and said, "Hey, do you think your dad would like one of these?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think he would." And I asked, "Okay, well, what's his color?" And she told me which color, and so I got Ralph one as well. So we go to the event.
And this is the shirt, right? Right here in
This
the
is the
picture?
shirt. So this
Yeah,
is
okay.
so this is mine, and the person taking this was the DJ, and we'll come back to him later. So the DJ loved my shirt, and he's like, "I need to get a picture of this." So I stood there smiling, and he goes, "No, I need you to do uh, do you." Ooh,
Uh-oh. That's okay.
oh, yeah.
Guys, it's live. Anything can happen. Just lost post it.
I know. It just. I mean, look. I mean, a flying mouse pad.
You're right.
But anyway, he wanted me to pose like the T-shirt, and so that's what that is. I'm posing like the T-shirt. Um, yeah. So we get to the event, and after you grab your book, there's a big old sign that has like some of this information here, and also at the bottom, no gifts. So I was like, oh no,
Okay.
oh no. So when we got in line again, we were kind of like towards the back of the line, and and so the picture that you're seeing here, he's actually holding the T-shirt, and I'm not sure what else, but also a water bottle. So the bag that you see, that's what the T-shirt is. So he's holding that shirt. When we walked up there, when we were in line, we were all kind of discussing like, all right, well, we're all getting a picture, but wouldn't it be neat if we also had like some video of us kind of
Mhm.
walking up there to kind of interact? And we're like, oh, that's a great idea. So my idea was, all right. So the first person, which was me, I kind of led our little posse here, and I was like, all right. So I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna give this lady my phone. So the next person behind me, you just film. All right. So we're like, all right, great idea, great idea. So we get up there, not knowing that, well, the next person will have to end up surrendering their phone at some point. So my video got cut short, and so like, oh man, maybe if we're just one more person, we would have like had the timing down right. But I walk up there, and I kind of have the T-shirt tucked in my arm. Now, as I'm going up there, the handlers, one lady says, "Oh, here, let me grab your phone," and the other lady, she was kind of like wearing like a kind of like a suit, like a business suit, and she had a mask on. And she was like, she pointed at my T-shirt, and she said like I wasn't paying attention because she had a mask on, so I didn't know she was going to be speaking, and if she was, I didn't know it was going to be towards me. And so I heard some talking, and then I heard Cobra Kai Kompanion. That's when she got my attention, and she's like pointing at my shirt and said, "Ralph said that you would be here," and I was like, "Oh," and so I was just thrown off by all of that. Like I'm focusing on like, well, I'm next up for a picture. I just handed this lady my phone. I'm thinking about the guy behind me who's like filming my interaction. And then now she's like pointing at my shirt saying Ralph told her about me, kind of thing. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. So I get up there, and I don't know if you have the video of this as
I
part of the
don't think I have the
slideshow.
video.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. But as I'm walking up there, I can talk about them too in a little bit. So
Okay.
as I walk up there, Yuji actually gets into a pose as I'm sliding Ralph the T-shirt, and so like Yuji sees this, and he's like, "Oh," and turns around, and then they're both kind of speaking to me, and I was like, "Julia said you like blue," so I just passed him like casually, just you know, uh, uh, slid the T-shirt to him, and he thanked me, and then he put it. I don't think you see it, but he puts it on one of the chairs behind him, and we say a few words just to kind of make it short because of the line. And yeah, we do the pose. I think Yuji made like a really like a joke too, like no, this guy can't have a picture, like something like that, because it was very much it was still kind of loud, a lot of people talking, and but his physical gesture was definitely like he was like kind of like busting my balls a little bit, and we all had a laugh, talked about the shirt, excuse me, and then we did the pose, and that was kind of it. And I just kind of waited for my group. And as we were all kind of slowly finishing up, I noticed that Yuji's wife, Angie, was sitting off to the side in the front row in the corner, just kind of waiting on her by her lonesome. And I was like, oh, let me go talk to her, because they just went, like the entire Okamoto family just went to the premiere. And I kind of wanted to hear her experience, interacting with the cast and whatnot. So I got in the second row to sit behind her. I was like, because like if she didn't want the company, I could just leave. But I was like, hey Angie, I saw the picture from the premiere. What was that like? She's like, oh, it was a lot of fun, and all these things. And real quick, during the panel, Yuji shared him flying his family to come visit on the set of Cobra Kai. And I guess one of the things that like one of the daughters was like, oh, where's Tanner? And so everyone's laughing, and then he does the whole thing like, oh, I flew you guys to come see me, and so there was a lot of like sharing things about like how the family's receiving like Yuji being on Cobra Kai, and yeah, so there were some personal stories that was a lot of fun. Like they both kind of shared about like how their kids maybe found out or how they handle their like celebrity. Like Ralph shared the story of when his kids realized that he was famous. It was like seeing I think it was Dan, his youngest son, seeing a picture of him in a tiger beat or something like that, and then like
Right.
runs over to Julia's like, Dad was famous. Like something like so that was really cute. And Yuji, like his story right after that was like, yeah, like I might be like watching one of my movies or whatever, and then my daughter will walk in like, oh, this is the one that Dad dies in. Dad's dead. And then she'll walk out, it's like clockwork. Yeah, he's just kind of like, oh. So it was kind of funny to kind of hear like different contrasting stories,
Yes.
of their family. So anyway, Angie, she shares like, her experience from the premiere, and all of the, so I spoke with her just long enough as like Ralph's line was dying down, and after that happened, Yuji comes down, and Angie gets up and they take off, and I was like, hey, I'll see you guys later, because we were gonna go karaoke, and Ralph kind of gathers his things, his handlers or whatever. They're all gone right now, so Ralph slowly walks down from the stage and basically just heads over to us, and as he's coming to us, like all of my friends, they kind of like give us some space, and then that's what you see the picture there. So he just comes up and he just walks over to me, and we just start talking. And
Mhm.
I believe I tweeted out this photograph, and I said something like just me and an author talking about his book, because that's all it was. I wasn't talking to like the Ralph Macchio. He wasn't putting on a Ralph Macchio, like a public speaking type of thing. This is Ralph Macchio. All the cameras are off. There's no mic going on. It's just me and Peter, because I've always kind of felt like ever since Paley Fest, how like Billy had some really nice words to me. It looked,
Yes.
I mean, you can hear it. Ralph was like trying to say stuff, and at some point he's just like, what, I'm gonna let Billy finish, and he didn't get a word in. So I always kind of wondered if Ralph Macchio had a moment, like what would he have said to me, and this was it. We were just talking about the book. I said this chapter, I appreciated the honesty of the story, and he talks a little bit about that. So, and that's what that was. So just really nice,
Wow.
intimate moment, just a few minutes, just me and him. No, I maybe if there's any Cobra Kai talk, it was very little. It was mainly about his book. I
Yeah.
don't even think I brought up the podcast. So
Yeah, that's really incredible. And as so many people in the chat are saying, Ralph is just such a great guy, and that sounds like such an incredible experience, Peter. So cool. And so you got to, and we'll step kind of quickly through some of these pictures. So
yeah.
are these fans?
You can call them that. I have it's weird for me to say that I have fans, like I say like listeners or viewers, but
Sure.
I feel that I'm not in your upper echelon in terms of following, but where I have a huge listenership or whatever, it's with the podcast, and
Mhm.
on the audio podcast is audio. You don't have pictures and images, so I feel like if you're a hardcore Cobra Kai Kompanion podcast listener, I may walk by you and you wouldn't have known, but we had posted a picture. We have a group page. Debbie, who's in the middle, she's a member of that group, and so Pilani had posted that we were going to be out there, or I believe it was in the group, and Debbie had mentioned I'll be there. I'll look for you guys, and I did not see that comment, so I had no idea that they were there. That's her husband Tony, who also just met that evening. And so the picture that you showed earlier of all of us lined up holding the Ralph Macchio book,
Right.
we took that photo, we took that picture, and I tweeted it out. I think Pilani posted it in the group page, and so Debbie had saw that photograph, and they're like, "Oh, okay. So what do we see back here? Where could they be sitting?" and they kind of figured out that we were towards the back, so they went to go looking for me. And I was just like, on my phone or something. All of a sudden, I hear like Peter, Peter, and I look over. This is a couple waving at me. I was like, well, I don't know them, but clearly they know me. And I go over and they introduce themselves. I was like, yeah, we listen to the podcast. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Because you know how it feels, to meet people in person that,
Oh
that
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, guys, because like for instance, everyone in the chat right now, those are some of the people watching, and I'm so glad you guys are all here, but in a way it kind of feels like we're all just here. It doesn't feel as real as when it's like you actually meet people. You're like, wow, yeah, it's really amazing to just meet all these people through the fandom, like, and you meet them in real life. It's kind of amazing. It's cool.
It's a different type of feeling, like I'm not trying to say like one's better than the other. Like, the people that we see in the chats, your Big T's and your Morganas, like all these, familiar names of the, the super hardcore Cobra Kai fans that also enjoy our content. You guys are
Right.
all on one level, but there's people out there that we forget that don't do social media, or they're a little bit more timid, and they don't want to say hello, but they want to say hello, kind of thing. This
Right.
couple, like Debbie, I vaguely knew her in my group, and she mentioned about like writing into one of the episodes. I go, I remember me and Brianna talking about your email, and she's like, oh, I was a little embarrassed about, and I was like, no, like, things are taken out of context, but like we knew you meant nothing by your comment. She just mentioned like something how I forgot the wording of it, but we were talking about Owen Morgan, who plays Bert, and we kept on calling him like Little Owen or something like that. And she just like, oh, but he's not little. He's 18. And
Right.
so like on the podcast, we were talking about how like, well, we met him when he was 14, so he's always going to be little to us, and we're grown adults, So yeah, he is
Right.
little. But she just hoped that we weren't like offended by the comment. I go, no, like you're right. Like, he's 18. Like, maybe we shouldn't call him little Owen anymore because he's a young adult. But no, they were a great and friendly couple, and then they followed me on Instagram, and Tony joined the group, I believe. And yeah, they just said they really liked the stories from the interviews that I've done, and it was just a really nice, sweet moment. I was just like, yes, people, I know people listen to me, but it's just like, it's great to put some like faces to names, or even just see faces of those that just listen.
Right. And and talking about the fans, you mentioned Big T. I'll just bring him up here. Good to see you. He says, my good friend Ken and I are working on a variety of different projects together, including Dyna Detox. Although I'm more interested in Cobra Cole 2, The Big T Rises. Indeed. Thank you, Big T. Thank you. It's always great to have you here. Liz, great to see you. Thank you. And Ben, wonderful to see you. And
Hey, Ben.
yeah, we are in this amazing story, in the midst of this amazing story from Peter, where he met Ralph Macchio and Yuji Okumoto. And I think the next step is we're going to a place that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Conan
Okay.
Kitchen. Absolutely.
Conan Kitchen. Now, tell us, Peter, because I don't think everyone realizes that Yuji Okumoto, he's the actor who plays Chozen. He actually owns a restaurant. And so tell us about this, Peter, because I think this might be new information for some people.
Yeah, the restaurant is like, Hawaiian food, some Asian fusion food, but Yuji just kind of describes it as like, comfort food. And Pialani, who is originally from Hawaii, she also shared a photograph of like an Aloha soy sauce. And she goes, this is like a legit Hawaiian place when they have Aloha soy sauce. And there it is with
There
the
it is.
menu. Yeah.
There
So
it is.
the food is great. It's just really good food. The last couple times I went, I had the Korean chicken with some mac salad, which complements it very well. And I usually just drink soda because I'm a soda guy. But the
Sure.
first time that I went, the very first time where I interviewed Yuji Okamoto, I believe it was like spring of 2019, and by summer of 2019, my friend and I were like, let's go to Kona Kitchen. And so we reached out to Yuji, hey, we're gonna come up. If you're around, great. If not, we're just there for the food anyway. And so we on our way up there, we go, we should do something like a all six challenge. And my friend's like, oh, I like that. I like the sound of that. What is that? I go, I don't know, maybe we'll just order like 6 items and just eat it all. And he's like,
Mhm.
that sounds like a lot. I go, I mean, what else? I mean, like, the all six, like, there's a reason why I'm gonna call it all six. And he's like, yeah, okay, all right. Well, we ordered 6 items and we couldn't finish it all, so we failed, I guess. Maybe if we did some more breathing exercises, I could have scarfed down some more food, but food was great. That's the first time Yuji sat down with us, and I thought it was going to be real brief, but he ended up spending like 3 hours with us. And then just back in August, I think we went again, spent another 3 hours with us, well past closing as well. He closes at 9 o'clock, and we got there a little after 8. And I was like, if you got to close, like, just wanted to say hello, eat some food again. And I think we got done hanging out with him till like 11 o'clock, I think is when we left Kona Kitchen. And he mentioned, he has shown me some t-shirt designs that he had in the works. So he just kind of showed me and my buddy. I was like, oh yeah, that looks great. He goes, that's the one. And he said, next time you come up, I'll get you one. I said, okay. And I didn't want to hold him to that. If he remembered, great. If not, no big deal. So yeah, this was before season 5, so we couldn't really talk a whole lot about it. But I remember one point, and this is how Yuji's just so like quick on his feet, is just before any, I think maybe the second trailer had just come out, or it has already been out. And I was like, there's a huge speculation that this one point in the trailer that is Johnny and Chozen that goes to a Cobra Kai dojo. And I showed him the footage where Johnny downs the beer, and there's a gentleman in front of him with the coat. I go, a lot of us, we think that this is Chozen. And he looks at it, and he looks at me. He goes, it could be. And so like he wouldn't even admit to it. But yeah, he was really good. And I told him my theory about Chozen dying, and he looked at me. He's like, that's interesting.
Oh wow.
So he was humoring me, and I was like, that interesting comment. I don't know how to take that.
Well, okay, and let me just interject here. Obviously, we had discussed theories about season 5, and that was one that you felt pretty strongly about. Now that you've seen season 5, do you feel relieved that he did not die, or how are your feelings?
I'm glad he didn't die. I just the thing is, we were being trolled that someone was going to die.
Right.
So I was shocked with the Kreese reveal, right?
Right.
And if it like, poo on you if you haven't finished season 5 yet. If you're in the chat, I'm sorry, Ken.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. If you haven't seen season 5 yet, we will talk about spoilers. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's been over months now. And it's the best season of the series. Anyway, so they were just giving us these little breadcrumbs to Chozen, like the in episode 4 where Chozen's like, oh, take the day off, so I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen here? And then fast forward to episode 9 where Chozen wants to keep his mind clear. No, have a drink. No, what's he doing? Why is he drinking? And then the phone call to Kumiko. No, why is this a goodbye? So all of that, Chozen just having the time of his life. This can't be it. And the big fight at the end, they continue to use our expectations against us. And so, I know that some of the writers and, some of the TV3, they listen to some of our interviews. They may have heard me talk about this theory. Like, I don't know if that's like, a lot of people probably think this. Maybe we play with that. And I don't know, it'd be a great question to kind of bring up, about that whole thread there. But yes, I was relieved that I was wrong. But I mean, I easily could have been right too, because they were teasing us with that.
Well, okay. So here's a comment from Dorothy. She asked, do you see a big death in season 6? Here's what I'm going to say. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Peter. I don't buy it. I feel like every single season, there's always some rumor, trolling, or something about a big character dying. And everyone's been talking. Usually it's like the villain. It's like Kreese has been supposedly going to die for I don't know how many seasons in a row. Terry Silver's going to die. It's like and so here's the deal. Maybe someone will die at some point. Obviously, we had Tommy was a character. For us, he's a huge character. For the series, he was just like a small character, but he was probably like the most prominent, impactful death, in the series. But aside from that, no one's died. And so I'm not going to get this is my choice. I'm not going to get into the idea that people are going to die because I feel like Peter, I feel like I've been yanked around too much. I don't know.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you. My neck's a little sore, from all the yanking around
Yeah.
in one
Right.
direction or the other. Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm starting to kind of get the SNS, the strained neck symptom.
Oh yeah. There you go. I love it. Yes.
So I'm
Good.
getting a little bit of that right now. I think that is. I don't want to say to say, in my opinion, I don't think anyone's going to die anymore at this point. Tommy, I think that was an exception to the rule just because of put him in the body bag.
Do you think so? They wanted to do that so bad?
I think that's it. I think one of them,
Wow.
who has the darkest of humors, was just like, that's what we're going to do because it's funny.
I have to tell you, that moment where you saw, his face zip up in a body bag, that was one moment where I had never felt two feelings at once like that, so diametrically opposed. One where I'm like, oh my God, Tommy's dead. And the other one, like, oh my God, they put him in a body bag, and it's like, it's funny, but it's tragic. And it's like, it's a weird combination, I think. But
I had that same reaction, and I even said out loudly, and mind you, we're bitching at, let me see, that's episode 5. So we're talking about, let's see, season 2. Season 2 actually dropped at 9 o'clock for us, 9 p.m. So we're looking at, 11 midnight, maybe that's for us. So I'm watching this happen, and I said, no, they didn't. Those MFers put him in a body bag. That was my reaction.
Yeah.
So I was like that
Right.
gut wrenching, like, oh my God, Tommy's dying. And then immediately, like, you MFers, like, I cannot believe all for this. Like that was my reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But you're right. It's like, other than that, no major character. Obviously, we saw, like, Captain Turner, and that made sense in the context of that story. But we're talking about legacy characters actually dying.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that.
Maybe that's what we'll say. We'll say we don't see any legacy characters dying.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And someone said, it was Terry, who said, I really hope Cobra Kai keeps up with not killing characters like other shows do, because at this point, we've lived with streaming serialized storytelling for so long, and maybe most prominently in the Game of Thrones, but that's a way to subvert expectations and, like, keep people watching and interested. It's like, that's an easy way to do it. You just surprise kill someone off, and you're like, oh, what's going on, and who are they going to kill off next? And I kind of like how Cobra Kai doesn't operate like that. Like, it doesn't need those shocks in order to keep you interested. I don't know. That's my thought.
It's a great thought, Ken, and you just kind of nailed it right there. Like, they don't need to do that. They already tell a great enough story that we're that we're going to be excited to hear about, and the possibilities of certain ways and paths that characters can go. Why throw that in? It's too easy, and one could even kind of translate that to as like they're running out of ideas, right? So they already have enough characters, and there's plenty of stories that can be told with these characters.
Right. And flip the script adds to your thought. The big three have worked hard to get all their favorite Karate Kid characters together. I doubt they'll want to be the ones responsible for their deaths. That's kind of an interesting point, and who knows what the future is. I mean, I know we've talked about, like, the potential for spin-offs, that's kind of in the ether right now. And who knows what the life of these characters could be beyond the Cobra Kai series. William Zabka has talked about there being, after Cobra Kai's over, there being actual movies, maybe like a trilogy of movies, or maybe there are other series. And, you'd probably want to keep as many characters around just in case, I would
never know. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that was interesting, guys. Now I'm interested in Kona Kitchen, because someday I would love to go there. I would love to go up to Seattle and go to Kona Kitchen. And tell us about, now, who's in this picture here?
This is my cousin's daughter. So I actually have not seen her since she was like a toddler.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it was a bit of a reunion. And the funny thing is, so she now has a little sister, and her little sister is probably about the age when I saw her last. And so when the family walked in, I saw the little sister. I go, "There's no way she's still that little," because they look so alike. And so yeah,
Wow.
this is Taylor. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, how
I believe
nice.
I believe she's in middle school now. I didn't ask her age, so but yeah, they at this point, this is the restaurant side which has closed down. Since her and her sister are too young, they had to stay on that side while we're over at the bar. So
I
you know,
see.
it wasn't too late. You know, they had their iPads and whatnot, and they were literally at the booth just right where the bar and the restaurant separate. So we were able to kind of just walk back and forth. And anytime like you know people wanted to talk and need a little bit more quietness, they would walk to the restaurant side and talk there. And obviously, you know, anytime there's like, hey, Yuji, can we take a picture? Often
Hmm.
it's like, let's take a picture by the Karate Kid 2 poster. And yeah, because right now karaoke is going on, so it's just loud music. A lot of people are singing along, and bar patrons are shouting because the music's so loud because they're shouting to each other. So it was a very fun evening. Every one of us, Jenny, who's on the far left end, she showed up a little bit later. She was at the book
Hmm.
signing, close to being up front, and she joined a little bit later. But when we got there before Yuji, and you know we secured some tables, ordered some food, some drinks. We had the chosen cocktail. I don't know
Oh, no
if
kidding.
yeah, if you have the picture of us where we're doing the kari. So we're actually
Let me.
having the yeah.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
Yeah, so
This
there
one
we
right
are.
here.
So this is the chosen cocktail. I do not remember the ingredients of it, but Kona Kitchen, they had announced on their Facebook group that, you know, hey, come on in and try the, you know, special chosen cocktail. We're like, yes, we will do that. So
So Peter,
it's, yes.
I've got a question. The chosen cocktail, would you describe it as powerful? Did it knock you out?
It did not knock me out, but it was powerful. It was definitely strong. That was my joke for the evening. I go, I wonder because it was a little strong for me. I go, I wonder if that's why it's a chosen cocktail because it's a little strong. Yeah.
Right.
So I think all but one person had the chosen cocktail that evening, and yeah, it's fine. It's not something I would order every time I go there. You know, maybe once in a while, or maybe with other Cobra Kai fans or whatnot. You know,
Okay.
just to have it, but yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea, you know,
I
my
gotcha.
type of cocktail even. But
Hmm.
yeah, we thought it was appropriate to kari, you know, so that we did that. We had our drinks, and shortly after this is when Yuji walks in, and I don't remember if it was Anne or Pialani's recollection, but in the audio podcast of the recap, they mentioned that we were all just sitting there, and when Yuji walked in, he saw me, and then he walked into like a back room and came out and handed me this shirt. I don't remember if anyone said if it was discreetly or anything like that, but it was very much like you know, kind of like he handed it to me, just hoping that nobody was gonna see and like ask for one, you know, kind of thing. But once I like kind of opened it up, you know, I think there was at least three people like I would be happy to buy one, but he didn't have it made to be bought just yet. But you know, he
Oh,
mentioned that he would give me one the last time I came up, and so he did. So I got two chosen stickers and a team chosen T-shirt. So that's the back side of it that I'm showing you. On the front side, there's a little Miyagi Do emblem. So there, this is handsome
okay.
feather right here. Yeah,
Some great modeling shots, Peter. Here we
yeah.
go. That's great.
So
Front and back. Yep.
that's it. Yep.
That's
So really
wonderful.
really cool. Yeah. So
And then you guys were singing karaoke?
we karaoke. Though we definitely sang a few songs, all of us. I believe this was the first song of the evening, and we did it. We did "Eye of the Tiger." So by this point, there was a little announcement made. Oh, I forgot who had footage or pictures of this, but the DJ actually called me up basically, you know, kind of not, you know, there's I didn't go on stage, but I was kind of like front and center kind of thing. Like he came over with the microphone. He's like, well, it appears that Yuji thinks that you're someone important, and why don't you tell us about your podcast? And I was like, oh, okay.
Nice.
So I tell them about Cobra Kai Kompanion, about the interviews. I was like, you can find 2 of Yuji's interviews on the channel and the audio if you want to listen to it that way. And yeah, the DJ said that that they'll help promote the podcast, on these karaoke nights. I go, well, thank you, and so that was kind of it. And then a little bit later on, he goes, when I go up there and request Eye of the Tiger, and just right before it was our turn, he said, hey, come here, and he was like, hey, if you could somehow get you this microphone, I'll make sure that he gets up there and sings with you guys. I'm like, well, okay,
Oh,
I'll try.
man.
Yeah. So Yuji, who I did invite to join us earlier, which also my last few words to Ralph as he was saying goodbye, I was like, we're going to Kona Kitchen if you want to come by and karaoke. He's like, yeah, thanks for the offer, guys. And so we I told Yuji, like, hey, we're gonna do Eye of the Tiger later if you want to join in. And he's like, no. So when the DJ hands me an extra microphone, I kind of casually like walk by Yuji. Like, I don't step in front of him and like stop. I casually like walk by, go, Yuji, hold this real quick, as I keep going. And he looks at the mic and he hands it back. Like, no, thank you. Like, he knew exactly what I was doing. I think Pialani says in our recap, she's like, Mama didn't raise no fool. Like, So he was like, but what I will do is I will sit right here and watch you guys. So to our right, your guys' left, Yuji is sitting at the table watching us sing Eye of the Tiger.
Wow.
So, and at not 2 points, but at one point, he actually gets up and takes a couple pictures, or actually takes a few pictures of us. I think I saved like 2, because one of them looked really close to the other one, and I think the third one was blurry. But anyway, my cousin's husband, he was filming us like singing, and he kind of pans around the room. So in his video, you actually see Yuji get up, and as he's panning back the other way, you see Yuji pull out his phone, but that's it. So we're like, oh, it looks like he filmed or took pictures. And so we were wondering about it, and it wouldn't be until like a few days later he actually messaged me those photographs. So I was like, it was photos, and he gave them to me. Thank you. So a couple of them, I just said when I shared it, I put in the captions, photo cred Yuji Okumoto, just kind of, just to throw a little flex out there. But yeah, we had a good time. Yuji, sat with us, and Andre, the cousin's husband. I think when we were with Ralph, he was just kind of like, oh my God, Ralph is like talking to Peter, and he's like this close to us. And I guess he was the same way with like Yuji. Oh my God, Yuji's like sitting with us at the table and stuff. And so, yeah, Yuji was just a bar owner to us that evening. He's not Yuji Okumoto, the actor who plays Chozen Toguchi. I had like a really surreal experience that evening. I talked about it in my recap, that that evening, for the very first time, I kind of felt like like a family friend. Later on in the evening, as we were leaving, I gave Yuji's wife a hug. When he was leaving for the evening, and we were saying our farewells, I didn't even think about it, but it was just kind of like in the moment, I gave him like that really close friend half hug thing. And then as I was doing it, I was like, oh man, I don't know if he'd be okay with that. I just kind of went in for it, and it seemed fine, Yeah, so I just, because of that, I was just like, yeah, what an incredible evening, just to have the few minutes with Ralph where we was just talking about his book, nothing else. And then I got to spend the rest of the evening with Yuji Okumoto. He watches us sing Eye of the Tiger, which it wouldn't be until afterwards we're like, do you think he's sick of hearing that song now? Like people were coming to a Kona Kitchen, this one's for you, Yuji. But to be fair, I it was the second karaoke night back, so if anything, we were the first of that night, at least. Maybe he heard it a few times the previous week, but he did share with us that when we were talking about like, you got any requests or whatever, and I kind of forgot how he worded it, but basically, a surprise to us all, he's not a fan of Glory of Love.
No kidding.
Yeah, that was our reaction. Like, what?
Wow.
Are you not Glory of Love? But if you're an actor from the Karate Kid Part 2 and you have like a karaoke night at your restaurant, you would probably hear it a lot.
Yeah,
So I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
It's like
So
what Kate Winslet said about "My Heart Will Go On" in Titanic. She's like, I can't take it. I can't take it anymore."
um,
That is so
I
funny.
I just heard on a podcast called Unspooled with Amy Nicholson and Paul Shear.
Yeah.
And they were reviewing Titanic, and they had a small interview with Danny Nucci, I believe it is, who plays Fabrizio.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and in there he talks about how he hates that song. So it's not just her.
Right. Right. Oh,
I
that
love
is.
that song.
Yeah, I do too. It's like not only does it remind me of the Karate Kid 2, but it reminds me of the 80s. It was such a huge hit.
It was.
Glory of Love. Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
but I can understand what he's talking about. Now, Peter, I have to ask you about this because this made me laugh when I saw it. This is awesome.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
we've seen Lego Cobra Kai. This is action figure Chozen Toguchi. Yeah, no. So I was talking to the DJ, and I don't even think he showed me. I think I just happened to look up, and this Chosen action figure is just placed on the line there with these lanterns, you know. And I
Yeah.
just thought I'd take a photograph of it. That was it.
It's
And
great.
according to the DJ, it's been up there for years. Yeah, it's
Wow.
been up there for a real long time. It's part of the fixture there inside the little DJ stage slash booth. Yeah,
Wow.
I had pretty. Yeah, I was really amused when I saw that. I was like, I have to get a picture.
Yeah, that is incredible. I mean, what a great night.
Yeah.
So I mean, for anyone who's in the Seattle area or going to be in the area, I guess is that recommended? Just go and show up at the Kona Kitchen.
Yeah, I have no suggestions on, like, if you want to see Yuji Okamoto. I can't give you suggestions.
Right,
I
right,
don't know if you can call and say, hey, will Yuji be there? We would like to see him, and we'd like to come and, I don't know, reserve a table. I don't know. Like, I I have an open conversation with Yuji, and so I've visited him before, and so when I go, it's never like, Yuji, I would like to come and see you. It's,
right,
hey, we're coming to eat at your restaurant. If you're available, we would love to
right.
say hi. And that's all I do, So he does have two locations. My guess is that he's going to be at either one at any given time of day. If I would have to guess, maybe the Seattle one because it's the first one. I don't know where he lives in terms of, like, geographically from the two locations, but his second location is in Linwood, which is, I feel, half an hour away, further north. So,
Okay.
whichever one you're close to, I'm sure the other location is just as great. But if you're, yeah, looking to meet Yuji, I would guess one of those locations. Just I don't know if he'll respond to, like, instant messages or whatever, private messages.
Well, if nothing else, we know that you're guaranteed a chosen cocktail, right? If you want
Yeah,
to sample the chosen cocktail, you can definitely get that.
and good food,
And
and I haven't seen the inside of his second location, but that first one, from some of those images, you can see there's a lot of memorabilia, not just from the Karate Kid Part Two, but also signed headshots from many actors that he's worked with or very close friends with. I
wow.
believe the one that I gave you from Anne, I believe you can see Jason Scott Lee next to, I think, the drum, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
He has.
let me bring that up. Okay, so Anne, we
There it
all
is.
know about her Funko Pop toys, but okay, now let me see. Oh, Jason Scott Lee.
Yeah, just right above Daniel's head. Yeah, and then
Nice.
Mark Dacascos right above him, and then to the left is a Chosen action figure, I believe, from Remco, and then left of that is the drum. So
Wow.
I am curious, why is the drum positioned upside down? I wonder if there's any significance to that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, right? Like for example, a flag, right? If you fly the flag upside down, a sign of distress. Why is this drum upside down? This
Do you think
baby's toy, as Chosen calls it.
right? I mean, I was thinking, is it an act of defiance because that
Mm,
initiated the failure of Chosen? So, he's putting it up there, but he's being a little rebellious and putting it upside down.
it could be. It could be. That Chozen, I tell
Interesting.
you. Yeah. And there's I'm not surprised because I'm sure it's placed somewhere really nicely, but somewhere there's also a headshot of Pat that's also signed, and every one of those also always have like some really nice words from the actor themselves. So very impressive. Just pictures all over the walls there. I mean, Yuji's done a lot of movies. If you guys go look at his
Mhm.
credits, you'll be surprised. Like he's been actively working for decades.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and even places you don't expect. Like I remember seeing the movie Pearl Harbor, with Ben Affleck. He's
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah.
It's like he's in everything. It's
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes,
He,
yeah,
no lines, but he has a sequence. You see him at least 2 or 3 times. With just no lines.
yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That's fantastic. Okay, so if you were to sum all this up, Peter, we've heard you talk about this amazing experience, not only reading Ralph's book multiple times, but seeing a panel, talking with him, talking with Yuji, singing "Eye of the Tiger" in front of Yuji at his restaurant. Like, what? How would you sum up this day?
Awesome. To take a word that Ralph uses very often in his book. I kind of joke like it should be a drinking game. Oh, how often he uses the word awesome. And you start watching interviews with him, like I believe that's his favorite word. It was just an awesome night. It was so surreal. It was incredible. It's right up there with Paley Fest.
Mhm.
You've attended some pretty amazing events like the Live and Badass and the
Mhm.
concert.
Right.
Like I didn't get to go to those, so I can't compare, but I don't know, just an intimate moment with Ralph, just me and him, just talking about his book, like that was pretty incredible. Getting a picture with Ralph and Yuji, a rare opportunity for many, um, and just to hang out with Yuji at his bar. Like if you go to his bar for karaoke night, maybe you'll see him there, But
Right.
when I saw him interact with some of those patrons. I don't know, like if they're regulars or whatever, but everyone is pretty respectful and nobody's like, fanboying or growing out. Like, yeah, you're feeling all of that, but like nobody is like, trying to sneak in real close and like, can I get a picture? Like he's open to all pictures and he just like, yeah, absolutely. He's not like, oh, maybe nothing like that. So
Wow. Yeah, Peter, that sounds incredible. What a great experience, and thank you for coming on KenCast to talk about it amongst our extended family of viewers. I know we're all excited to hear about this, and it's a good reminder, guys. If check to see if there are future dates on Ralph's book tour. He may come to a location near you. You might want to check that out. Also, if you haven't read or listened to the book, huge recommendation. If you've been thinking about it, just do it. Or it would make a good present, for the holidays. Um, yes, go ahead.
let me add this. If you have a work environment or do a lot of commuting, excuse me, I had a really dry throat cough now.
Mhm.
I sound a little weird, but if you have the time, um, do the like the free trial on Audible. If you listen
Right.
to podcasts already, it plays like a podcast, and it's like Ralph talking to you. Just do a trial. I don't know if it's 7 days or a month, whatever it is,
I think
but
it's 30 days.
well, there you go. That's plenty of
Mhm.
time. And I
Yeah.
know, like some of my friends that are book readers, they're trying to go through it slowly so they can kind of just digest and kind of prolong finishing it. I do need a cocktail. Yes, thank you. But yeah, that would be my suggestion if if you're like kind of on the fence. It's worth buying, because you're supporting Ralph. It's instant bestseller. Like at New York Times. That's incredible. And also if you're a fan of Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, like this is one to own, to add to your collection. A little joke there, but
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
just yeah, no, it's just it's worth owning for sure. Just to have, even if you can't read it, because when you have the moment, the stories are just they're great. Also the panel that I attended, I haven't checked in a while, but I believe there was some sort of production. I don't want to say company, but there's footage. The entire panel Q&A or
Oh,
whatever
great.
was on YouTube. Yeah, there was some account shared it, and it looked like they go to certain events and film it, and it doesn't look like it was done like discreetly or anything like that.
Right.
I think it was an actual like production that was there to videotape it. So
That's
so
wonderful.
you can check that out. Yeah, so you get to hear some of those stories that we talked about. One story I just kind of wanted to share because I thought it was so funny and sharing the recap. But when they were reading those Q&As, or not the Q&As, the questions that they had people people write out, they were kind of going through them, and Ralph was like, I might have to pull these out, and he pulls out his glasses, and he was kind of like, trying to look at the little questions, and so that was funny that they were playing up their age. And then
Right.
at one point, they were kind of alternating reading questions and go, here you go, Yuji. So Yuji's like, all right, let me see. And then Ralph was teasing him, and they're putting on a show for us, right? So we're all laughing along. At
Right.
one point, Yuji's trying to look at the words, and Ralph pulls out his glasses, starts like, "You want these?" So there's some of that. They were really really funny, hilarious, and I shared on my social media. This is why you guys got to follow me on Instagram. I do have some footage somewhere that I shared where at the very end, they both get up and thank the crowd, and Ralph turns to Yuji for a hug. Yuji sees that, and then they embrace. It was very nice and sweet. So.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible moment.
That's fantastic. Flip the Script says, all sounds great, Peter. Looks like a great place to visit for any big Karate Kid 2 fan. Obviously, the event and Kona Kitchen, really fantastic. I guess Peter, do you have just a few minutes in case people have questions?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. Bryce Production says, question for Peter. Are you going to do any more live streams with Cobra Kai Theory?
That's a great question. We don't have anything planned, but prior to season 5's release, we were supposed to do a season 5 recap together. But he said yes, but wasn't able to get a rewatch in, and he was concerned that there was going to be details that he had forgotten, and he was kind of deep into a lot of Star Wars stuff. Which, for those that don't know, he also hosts Star Wars Theory, and there's so much content out there right now. That's why he's behind in the Cobra Kai stuff. So at this point, there's nothing planned, but that doesn't mean we won't do something in the future together.
Okay, excellent. Okay, that's fantastic. Terry Johnson also follows up with an earlier thought that everything sounds incredible, Peter. Yes, and it does. Big T chimes in. Good to see you again, Big T. I wasted my finest bottle on that imposter Sensei Joe last year. Can't wait to finish him and that bottle once he's off the board for good. My goodness. Yes. Well, we understand your frustration, Big T. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter, I know you may not totally agree with it, but I think you can make a strong case that he was wronged. That maybe everyone feels like Chozen and Daniel and everyone are the good guys, and Terry Silver's a bad guy. But Terry didn't really commit that many crimes in the grand scheme of things, right?
No, I agree with you, Ken, to a certain extent. I believe what Sensei Joe did was, he took down all 6 of these possible recruits, and now Terry has to like look for new, like some more best of the best, like these were supposed to be the best of the Valley Senseis. So now he's gonna have to look just that little bit more harder, maybe outside the Valley for some more. So if Sensei Joe didn't do the whole mole thing, Terry would still have his six possible recruits to become some Cobra Kai sensei. So I do feel bad for Terry in that aspect. But Chozen got his. He had a crick in his neck, from fighting. And I think he had a bad back in the following episode. That I think it was the couch that was not good, but also from fighting 6 people the previous episode. So it's like he got a bad back out of it.
Absolutely. Beastmon 99. Sorry, I'm late. No, it's great to have you here. Thank you for joining us, Beastmon. Early, late, it doesn't matter. We had a question from Jay Wiggin. Good to see you, Jay. Ralph doesn't kick doors open in real life, does he? Can you answer that, Peter?
Well, he definitely didn't kick the door on his way in, but they both entered like rock stars, just like any of the Comic Cons. If anybody has attended them, they all come out, everybody's cheering. Now the funny thing is, Billy is the one that usually comes in with his phone already recording everybody. At least that's my experience. This time around, Ralph comes in, he's waving to everybody. It's Yuji Okumoto that comes in with his phone on, with the the flash, and he's waving at everyone. So it was pretty amazing. So their entrance might have kicked down the proverbial door, but there was no Freddy Fernandez. So I believe that's why Ralph didn't kick any doors down that day.
That's great. Well, everyone, Peter is host of the Cobra Kai Kompanion podcast, a compendium of information and interviews and analysis and thoughts about the Cobra Kai series and the Karate Kid universe. And that is only one podcast he does. Peter, Podstalgic is an amazing podcast as well. We have a link down in the description. Peter, can you tell us about what's coming up for Cobra Kai Kompanion?
Not scheduled yet. I am in talks with some people to come on the show. It's a matter of ironing out a schedule and depending on availability. I don't know if I want to throw any names in the event they don't work out. I am pretty confident about one. We've kind of talked about the character, this stream Chozen. I got a young Chozen that has been I've been speaking with his mother, obviously because young Chozen, so it's a little boy, but I've been speaking with his mother, and she says that he would be happy to come on, and so so scheduling is a thing. Someone I reached out to before, I'm not sure if there's two that I'm not sure if we're still going to do something, but they've said yes before, but it's also been a while since we've communicated, that kind of thing. But for those that haven't really been following, recently, I interviewed Akihiro Kitamura, who played young Sato. So I was able to get that Sato, even if I can get the original. He had a pretty incredible story. He kind of reminds me of Sean Kanan a little bit. Like the energy is a little bit different, but these guys, they bet on themselves because they are confident in their skill set and they know what they can bring. So they're both very self-made in that manner. But I thought it was a pretty interesting story that he told about coming from Japan and wanting to be a filmmaker. So that was pretty incredible. And his biggest thing that's like a cult hit, because he didn't see it going anywhere, was the Human Centipede. So he was in that. He was the first person in the Centipede. So I was just like, yeah. So
that very that a completely different type of movie, and just shows his range, right?
So he's directed and written. He's coming out with some stuff too. So that was the last one, and I think before that was like Elvia Hill, who played Maria. Maria, who's the mother of Luis. I interviewed EJ Sanchez. They are the Maria and Luis from the Mexico storyline, Hector's girlfriend and son. So those were the ones before Akihiro. So
everyone, it's just amazing how many people Peter has talked to. Go ahead and follow, subscribe to the Cobra Kai Kompanion podcast YouTube channel, but also, as Peter said, on every single podcast platform. So you can listen anywhere, in the car, on the plane, anywhere. You can bring it with you. Ben Matello says, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And the last word tonight, Peter, we'll give it to Chozen, who says, I don't care what anyone says, I'm the best character.
So, I have to agree. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to agree.
Yeah, much respect, Chozen. Much respect. So
absolutely.
Mr. Thank you for joining us.
Mr. Toguchi, aka the Okinawan assassin. We will not argue there.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I someday, Chozen Toguchi, I look forward to having a Chozen cocktail. Yeah. So 100%. Peter, thank you so much. I hope everyone can go and follow and subscribe to Cobra Kai Kompanion podcast. And also, if you've enjoyed this and you enjoy what we do here on KenCast or on the Ken Cole channel, go ahead and like and subscribe this video. Makes a huge difference on the numbers, and it makes you feel good. So
because it's
you go ahead and hit. It's totally free. It's totally free to hit like and subscribe. And once you do, you'll feel great for the rest of the day. And you'll be guaranteed, if you hit that notification bell, you'll get notified every single time we come out with a new video or a new KenCast. So we look forward. We're going to be having another KenCast on Tuesday. Drew O'Halley's coming back, and we're going to have sort of a broader conversation about movies, maybe comfort movies, kind of as we head towards the holidays. So definitely, we look forward to having you join us there. And Peter, I want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving if I don't speak to you. And I look forward to every new installment from the Cobra Kai Kompanion podcast.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And of course, you'll hear from me before Thanksgiving.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, Peter, have a good night. And everyone, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time on KenCast.